Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.40. Hare Krishna, дорогие преданные.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Итак, мы читаем.
So, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Karabhajana Prabhu, can you please read the Sanskrit version? Okay, sure. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 9, Text 40. It seems like our internet connection is really slow today. Can you hear me well? Well, it seems like our internet connection is really poor today. So, well, let's just give it a try. I can hear well. Could you hear Kirtan?
Киртан, было слышно? Слышно вас? Вас очень хорошо слышно. Хорошо, хорошо.
Yes, we still can hear you very well.
Bhadram prajanam anvichan atishtat svartha kamyaya Prajapati Patihi, прародитель всех живых существ.
So Prajapati, the forefather of all living entities. Dharmapati, the father of religious life. Ekada, once upon a time. Ninyaman, rules and regulations. Yaman, principles of control. Bhadram, welfare. Prajanam, of the living beings. Anvichan, desiring. Atistrat, situated. Svaartha, on interest. Kamyaya, so desiring. Okay, now the translation of this text. Thus, once upon a time, the forefather of living entities and the father of religiousness, Lord Brahma, situated himself in acts of regulative principles, desiring self-interest for the welfare of all living entities. So here, there's a Bhagavata Purana, very old Purana. It doesn't have any release date. It doesn't even make sense to date it, to put a time mark on it, because it's been here forever. It's lost somewhere in our history. But some things are described by Puranas, great things that the welfare of all living beings depend on. So Puranas, they describe all these things. So this principle is reflected also in the human society. The historians, they also fix these great things, actions of all protrudent scholars. Everything is fixed this way. And also some kind of disasters are fixed as well, and methods of life support. So, three details: how our civilization is created, the way it is created, the way it starts, with a very primitive lifestyle. Well, this is their representation of how it all was evolving. So then how this society is being supported the economy, management, ethics, culture. So there's got to be some dharma in there. And then how all these civilizations get destroyed. They're all doomed to be destroyed. So all these things are described by the historians. Just like the Atlantis, the Egyptian civilization, so many secrets, so many mysteries that are still unsolved. And the further you go deeper into the history, the more difficult it is for us to understand what it was like there back in time. We only try to understand it based on the identification with this body. Of course, we cannot go beyond this physical body concept. We simply cannot comprehend our universe because we lack experience. So we have to know that this principle of creation, development, and destruction is universal. It's out there everywhere. Every universe is created, and it's developing, and then it gets destroyed. So during the development on different living creatures are created. Everything is created eventually, consequently, with time. Days of Brahmas pass by. So Puranas, they describe all these stages. Of course, the main characters are described as well. And the Brahma is the first character that we all should know of. So sometimes we think that this is God, He creates the universe. No, He's not the God. So He may be known just as Indra or Chandra. So the Lord, He is beyond everything. He is the source of everything. So He's the source of Brahma as well. He's the source of this Creator, and He's Lord. So He gives all these ingredients and physical bodies. So all these structures and constructions, they all belong to one Lord. So, but before Brahma starts creating, Narada Muni says, well, you've had this period of contemplating. You're supposed to know what to create. So it means that you've had a period of inactivity. So tell us where you got all this knowledge. If you are the first living entity in this universe, and now you're about to create something, but before this there was something. How did you get this idea? And when Brahma heard it, he was so happy that Narada Muni has manifested such wisdom. Then Brahma has told him about the reason of all reasons, the source of all reasons. And then by the will of God, Brahma starts creating over and over again, every day, every his day, every Brahma's day. So he should restore the universe over and over again. So the universe is not actually under his control, under his full control. Because when Brahma was creating the universe, once the ocean of the universe started being so turbulent, so there were terrible noises, sounds, because of this really turbulent action. So Brahma actually, he became unconscious. He fell off the lotus. He thought that it's over. He thought that this was the destruction of everything. So it happened during the creation. So these gross elements, they are not under the control of Brahma. So he almost fell off the lotus, and then the Lord, he supported him, he caught him. So Brahma creates, but he cannot support. Vishnu supports the universe. And then in order to create, you have to collaborate with this supportive force. Well, for example, we are preparing some inheritance for our descendants, and we just want to make sure that they will not waste it. So we have to support it and develop. It turns out this supportive force is the religious principles. People that follow the principle of the highest morality and performing your duty, to which the Bhagavad Gita goes up to. And they have to carry the message of the Supreme Lord, His ethics, morality, His intelligence and knowledge. And this knowledge, this great behavior based on the spiritual principles, this is dharma, and people should follow the dharma. So in this way, Brahma, at the beginning of creation, so he was supported by samadharma. So dharma, but dharma itself, himself, So dharma, the demigod, the god of dharma, he supports it as well. And he gets this knowledge from inside of his heart. It's called Shruti as well. He's supposed to hear all this information from the inside of his heart. We also have to learn how to do it along the way of Bhakti Yoga. That's why we have to have all these regulative principles set by dharma. We become servants of dharma. In this way we can understand the voice of our heart, because the Lord is not only in the heart of Brahma, the creator of all the universe. He is actually in the heart of all living beings. Even, as it said, an ant, he's got this voice in his heart, and according to his physical body, he knows what to do. In this body, well, imagine if you were a living being proposed to live in a body of an ant, you wouldn't know how to do it, would you? Well, we know this, we only know how to live in a human's body. We know how to control it, how to feed it, how to take care of it, and all this is dictated from above as a reaction for our previous actions, and we'll be feeling the same way as our previous activity dictates us. So this is called dharma. We've been given specifically this physical body, these feelings, senses, thinking, guna, karma, and varnas, all our past activities that we had forgotten. But something supports this dharma, this memory, and gives us this type of body that knows what to do next, without even remembering what happened before. So the same thing concerns an ant or a tree. They know what they're supposed to do, being like totally ignorant of their past lives, because our body is the product of our previous activity. So everyone knows what to do. So we see these regulative principles present in trees, animals, insects. Every living being acts according to its nature. So how can we see it with our eyes, or senses, or intelligence? So we have to reject, just to lord it over, the nature, just to stop sensual gratification. So we just start seeing dharma everywhere once we follow these regulative principles. And we can hear these principles clearly in our heart. The person is actually designed for finding the absolute truth. And it becomes attractive to us. We start thinking about the sense of life, and we understand that this absolute truth is present in the living being himself, in the heart of a living being, and we start rendering respect to all the living things surrounding us, and we can tolerate some weaknesses of other living entities, and in this way we get rid of all these weaknesses that we have in ourselves. So the heart is polluted, as it is said, but once we understand, once we realize the Supreme Lord, our heart gets purified and we help each other. This is our regulative principle as well, serving Vaishnavas. We help each other in this purification. In this way, this process accelerates. So we'll always be criticized for the things that we did wrong or for the things that we did right. So that's how we will be understanding how to develop further. Of course, sometimes it gets really challenging for devotees. Sometimes we are criticized too much, or we are glorified too much, not so much balanced. Sometimes we create a cult of a person, of some advanced preacher. In this case, sometimes one person can be really harshly criticized. So the point is that it's all because the mind, it either glorifies or criticizes until you destroy this person, until the mind feels gratified, until the person kneels before you and tells you that, oh, it's my blame, it's all because of me, it's my fault. So these principles all should be regulated. You have to follow them and they have to be balanced out. Just like Srimad Bhagavatam, just like Srila Prabhupada's lectures, we listen to his lectures all the time. There's also some critics and glorification there, but they're all balanced out. This is a truthful preaching that is really powerful, that doesn't touch, doesn't influence, doesn't affect a false ego, but it goes straight into our soul. So by communicating, by associating with Vaishnavas, we learn how to preach correctly, how to stay balanced, how to not be envious or too much proud of ourselves. It all should be balanced. So this is the highest virtue. The end of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anchalila. See, there are a lot of enemies to this shloka. They think that in this case you will destroy the human civilization. That's all materialists say. They say the human, without a false ego, without egoism, without all these animal instincts, they think that he will not be developing. He'll become unable to develop, to evolve. They think that it's all about fight, it's all about battle. So materialists, they think that this form of a golden section is not truthful. So you have to be really fearless to live according to this formula. You have to be really devoted to the Lord. You have to have this firm faith to become as timid as a grass living on the road and humble as a tree. So you have to be really a great person, very devoted. Materialists, they are afraid of these formulas. They think that it's a great deception. They tell you about humbleness, but they use your humbleness, they use your tolerance, they'll be exploiting you. So they think that gurus are all deceivers, liars. They're very much afraid of preaching. But besides this, it is necessary to understand one more thing: activity. We also have to know our service, the spirit of service. It should influence the whole world. On the one hand, this is humbleness, but on the other one, this is ambition. You see, that's the great golden section, that you preach throughout the world with this consciousness. You want to bring this knowledge to the whole world. You must feel like a piece of grass, like a blade of grass on the road. So Prabhupada looked like the way that it seemed like he could actually swallow up the whole universe. He was thinking about the state of the whole world. So he was very humble, but he was preaching very powerfully. So it triggers this spiritual contact, spiritual emotion when you talk to such a balanced person. We realize Krishna right away. His potency, his tenderness, and all this balance, this combination. See, there are no limits, there are no borders. And at the same time, he's so... The Lord is very open-hearted to every living being, very compassionate. And at this, he uses this potency to support, to control this, his creation, to make all these living entities happy. So he's got all these unique, amazing, sometimes even paradox qualities. So we take all this knowledge from Vyasadeva and Brahma, but the main acting living being is the Lord, the source of all these senses, the Supreme Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us about that. Krishna is the source of everything. All these spiritual paths take us there. And all this material creation, it's based on this major purpose, to get Krishna's, to become Krishna consciousness. So now the purport, let's read the purport. One cannot be situated in an exalted position without having undertaken a regulative life of rules and regulations. An unrestricted life of sense gratification is animal life. And Lord Brahmā, in order to teach all concerned within the jurisdiction of his generations, taught the same principles of sense control for executing higher duties. So let me just underline one detail in this purport. Seems important for me right now. It's always said about the danger of sensual gratification. So each time before eating prasadam, we say that. We repeat this mantra, offering prasadam mantra. Lord Chaitanya used to chant it as well. It's very dangerous to just enjoy your tongue. We glorify prasadam and we purify this process of eating. Sensual gratification is very dangerous. It all starts out with the tongue. But the Krishna prasadam is glorified, and then you can enjoy prasadam, Krishna prasadam, with a great pleasure. So gratification, enjoyment is natural for a living being. If there's Prakriti, there's got to be Purusham as well. Purusha is a living being as well. So Prabhupada didn't say that we should not enjoy. It's not really so. We should enjoy, but in a right way. So how do we do it so that our senses do not take us away, do not distract us from the righteous path? How do we enjoy without being distracted from the highest purpose? So in Krishna's consciousness, we have to learn how to enjoy correctly, in a regulated way. Our enjoyment starts with an early awakening. Well, you can't call it an enjoyment for ordinary people, waking up at 3:30, 4 or 5 in the morning, but not later. You have to wake up early. But as it is said in Bhagavad Gita, we are trying to do it correctly. So first you exert some force, first you try and then you enjoy. So in a righteous way, in a dignified way. So this is the science of Krishna's consciousness. And then it turns out, as a result of this process, that the source of this enjoyment is any supreme personality that speaks about Krishna, that serves to Krishna, thinks about Krishna, talks about Krishna, prays to Krishna, gives himself fully to Krishna. Krishna is the source of this enjoyment. And in this way, our consciousness does not deviate from the final destination, because the purpose and the process are the same things. An ordinary person, for him this work might be a hard thing, but he does it in order to enjoy later. When you're a devotee, you enjoy the process and the result at the same time, because you're full of enthusiasm to continue devotional service. So there's no difference between the result and the process. You're engaged in devotional service and you do want to perform this devotional service. Everything serves to this principle. Whereas in the material world, everything serves to the collection of fruits of your activity. So you see, everything gets separated here. You separate from God. Our senses take us away. They distract us. So we want to enjoy our fruits. In this way, the connection with God gets separated.
Итак, деятельность чувств во имя исполнения высшего долга. Он сделал это, заботясь о благе всех живых существ.
So he did it just to take care of all the living beings.
Он учит нас ограничить
So Brahma
деятельность чувств
teaches
во имя
us
исполнения высшего долга.
to restrict our sensual gratification for executing higher duties, so that we have time for executing higher duties. We have to control our senses. So he desired the welfare of all as servants of God, and anyone desiring the welfare of the members of his family and generations must conduct a more religious life. So we need to have time to execute higher duties. How do we get this time? Well, you have to follow the regulative principles, starting with the early awakening. And you see, you have enough time. We live in Kali Yuga. We live, up to 100 years. It's a limited time. So the sages have said that in Kali Yuga, a normal person would find only maximum 2 hours of free time a day. In Satya Yuga, there were like thousands of years for meditation. In Treta Yuga, for sacrifices, there was a lot of time, enough time allocated for that. They didn't have to spend so much time to support the bodies. They just didn't have to spend so much time to solve some crises. They had quite enough time for sacrifices or for meditation. In Satya Yuga, no one even worked. It wasn't necessary. In Dvapara Yuga, so people had some time to build great temples for worshipping, and every day they attended temples. So every morning started out with attending the temples, performing the duties, spiritual duties, and then in the evenings as well, they did the same thing. serving these deities. So there was enough time. But here, in Kali Yuga, you see it's really difficult just having a ordinary lifestyle. Every morning go to the temple, but if you don't live in a temple, you think it's not so easy to do, have a lot of job to do. But anyways, if we can perform regulative principles, eventually we'll have enough free time, more free time. Tamal Krishna Goswami once said about that. When you get old and when you stop traveling or preaching, you may just start living in Mayapur and just repeat mantra, chant mantra. You'll have enough time for chanting holy names. But meanwhile, we're on the path of liberation. Well, we consider the fact that we're not liberated yet so far, and we don't have so much free time. So time occupies us, and at the same time it can liberate us. So we have to all follow these regulative principles. So the highest life of moral principles is to become a devotee of the Lord. And we have to conduct a moral and religious life. Moral and religious. Morality. So you have to understand that if morality does not come from a religious, mundane morality is really dangerous. It's really treacherous. This is probably the most painful deception. When a person seems to be moral, but he deceives you under the cover of religion. So religion should be truthful. Otherwise, morality will become the reason of very serious psychological traumas. When you are deceived by a close person, it's another thing when being deceived by a person that you totally do not know. Even, some holy fathers in churches, they sometimes deceive. So religion and morality, they should go together hand in hand. So the highest life of moral principles is to become a devotee of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has all the good qualities of the Lord. On the other hand, one who is not a devotee of the Lord, however qualified he may be in the mundane sense of the term, cannot be qualified with any good quality worthy of the name. In Bhagavatam, there's a verse that says, so how does this materialist get these highest qualities? It's not possible. Only his understanding, his subjective opinion. So the question is, how is he supposed to get this morality? You may think that this is bad or good. This is just your opinion. If everyone thinks that I'm doing the right thing right now, but how do you know that? Just your false ego, just your opinion. So there has to be a source, the real dharma, dharmapati. The pure devotee of the Lord, like Brahma, and persons in the chain of disciplic succession, do not do anything to instruct their subordinates without acting accordingly themselves. What a powerful conclusion here. So you have to follow things that you teach to the others. In this way, we receive this answer, what the truthful regulative principles are. So there have to be some acharyas. If there are no acharyas, no regulative principles, just a mundane morality, everyone thinks that he's right, everyone thinks that he is doing the right thing, and that's a serious problem, coming from the mundane morality. So we don't need to have this mundane morality. It has to come from the devotional service, from the spiritual activity. The spirit of service is important. It all starts out from the regulative principles that I described here. So Brahma has given us these principles, so the living beings, they have this benediction. Okay, thank you. This was the second canto, Cosmic Manifestation, chapter 9, text 40. So let me go through the text once again. Thus, once upon a time, the forefather of living entities and the father of religiousness, Lord Brahmā situated himself in acts of regulative principles, desiring self-interest for the welfare of all living entities. So he was doing what he was teaching. So thank you, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. We're gonna make a short announcement right now, and then we'll transfer to questions. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the lecture. So dear viewers on YouTube, please send them out to our website, asiavaragya.com. For those who are in Zoom, please raise your hands so you could ask your questions online. So Ravindra Swarupa Prabhu once gave a seminar, was back in the 90s, 1997 probably. So referring to one scholar examining Vedas, he said that there's no description of the human rights in Vedas. So only the duties are described in Vedas. And the duties of Brahma and his followers so are to take care, as Prabhupada says, about the growing generation, younger generation, about the descendants, thus following strictly his dharma, because that's the caring for the young ones. Since we are describing this anga of the devotional service and associating with devotees, sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha in a society means 3 generations, seniors and the equals and the juniors. So taking care of the juniors means to be devotional to the regulative principles, to the principles of religion, morality. And this is the care. When we are talking about taking care of someone, it's emotionally and physically, taking care of the juniors, but the highest benediction that we can bring, and we have to follow it ourselves. We have to give an example. So it turns out that we can draw this conclusion from this verse and the purport. So my question is, in order to be dignified, if you want to be good enough to this challenge, we all get older, right? And eventually we all will get old. So how do we correspond to this role of a senior, feeling this responsibility before the juniors? Where do we get power, where do we get force to follow it and to demonstrate this example? Which is, if we don't demonstrate this good example, we deprive our growing generation of this great example. And where do we get this force from, this energy?
Где черпать силу в дхарме?
So where do we get this energy from? Dharma?
Похоже, интернет, да, прерывается.
Да, интернет. Я с перерывами слышу с перерывами. Это все так
Well, I
слышат, или
can
только
really
я?
hear intermittently.
Мы вас хорошо слышим.
Oh, we can hear you well, Chaitanya Chandran Prabhu. And did you hear me well? Karbajana Prabhu is asking. So there was some lagging.
А вот остальные меня хорошо слышали? Это интернет у меня слабый или?
So what about the rest of the viewers? Did you hear me well?
Мы вас хорошо слышим. Так же, как и Чанчаран Прабhu.
Karbajana Prabhu, we can all hear you well.
Хорошо,
There's not a
хорошо.
problem.
Значит, просто у меня что-то с обратной связью.
Okay, so it was
Но
just
я понял
about me.
вопрос, да? Вопрос
Well, but I
заключается в чем?
did understand the question. The question is,
Наша обязанность
Так.
это показывать пример, следуя
so our responsibility is to set an example,
служения,
following the principles of a devotional service,
установленным.
Да, да.
religious
Не забота о
principles.
младших.
Мы вымираем, вот, все люди вымирают же, да, но пример
So all people die, but their
Вот что.
life example is
Для этого
actually,
мы приходим, да, сюда.
it remains here.
Цели,
That's why we
серьезные
come here
задачи, то
to
зачем же
achieve
мы
some
приходим в эту временную
purpose.
жизнь,
If there is no purpose, why do we even
если
come here?
обладаем сознанием Кришны, и
If
нас
we
есть
have this
задача
Krishna's
оставить
consciousness and we have some
ачар-прачар,
purpose, some mission to live this
дхарму,
achara
наставлением
prachar,
и в своем примере,
so
поступках.
dharma in
И дхарма должна как бы
instructions and
пребывать
in our
здесь вечно,
activities.
иначе мир
So dharma should always be here, otherwise this world will not be able to
И
exist
вот
without
задача всех
dharma.
вымирающих людей
So the mission of all
подать такой
the
пример, оставить
dying
после
people
себя этот
to
пример
set this
и
example,
знания, опыт.
to leave this example behind,
Вот, тогда
the
они зря
spiritual
здесь прожили
experience
эту
as well.
временную жизнь. Вот, и дхарма, она их
So that's when it
возвышает,
would mean that you've lived here not in
движению
vain,
дальше.
because
Дальше
your dharma,
пойдем.
it elevates you.
Когда вымрем все, мы же дальше пойдем.
Then
Знаем,
when
что
we all
наш путь
die,
прекратится.
we will
Наш
continue our
путь закончится,
path.
может быть, на Галоке
It will
Вриндавана, но
not
он
be
никогда не
over.
заканчивается.
So probably we'll end up
С точки
on
зрения
Goloka
вечности,
Vrindavana,
он
but
вечный
it's
путь,
not going to end up ever.
вечный процесс.
It's an eternal process.
Это путь дхармы, да.
This is the path of
Тогда в
dharma.
этом есть смысл. А иначе какой смысл здесь жить и умереть?
Otherwise, there's no sense of just living here and
Оставить
die,
после себя могилу
just
оставить,
leaving a grave to yourself
и
with the
люди
picture
будут
on
ходить
it.
и думать, вот еще кто-то умер, кто-то
So
был,
people will
смотрите.
be just walking past,
Кто был,
thinking, oh,
неизвестно кто. Просто
another
какой-то
one
человек.
died. Who was here? No one
Они
knows.
увидят, что родственники, видимо, любили его, раз вот тут много венков,
So they'll probably see that his relatives,
мемориал,
they loved
наверное,
him,
любили его.
this memoriam. They
Столько
probably loved
прожил,
him.
ну-ка, вот столько прожил.
So how many years has he lived?
Да.
Okay, you see, not many.
Кем был этот человек в форме здесь? Смотрите, военный был, должно быть.
Oh, I see he's wearing some kind of a uniform. Probably he was military.
Памятника, просто горка такая.
And this grave does not even have a picture.
Такие мысли, все, больше ничего не остается.
So, you see, that's what kind of thoughts people have after you die.
Да, Дамодара, привет.
Damodara Priya,
Харе Кришна. Поклоны.
Hare Krishna, accept my
Есть
obeisances.
комментарии,
So
Прабхупада
here
пишет,
in the Purport,
то,
Prabhupada
что написал,
says
Карабаджана Прабху, что чистые преданные
just what
следуют
Karpajana
тому,
Prabhu said. So
чему
pure devotees,
сами, чему наставляют.
they follow what they teach.
Я слышала, что
And I've
все
heard
старшие преданные должны,
that the senior devotees,
как, их садхана должна быть прозрачной, то есть преданные
their
должны
sadhana should
знать
be
их садхану.
transcendent.
Возникает вопрос в связи с этим,
So the as devotees, they should know their sadhana. So the question is, how do we
прозрачность не превратилась в
make
показуху,
this
когда ты уже просто
following this translucency does not become a show, so that everyone knows what you're doing?
Во что не превратилось еще раз?
показуху.
Like a show up, you know, like a show off. So how do you
Еще раз.
just
Показуху, чтобы не превратилась.
like a performance. Well, it will turn into this performance or show off because we have passion. Well, you still have to continue doing it until you deepen your sadhana. It may happen. Do not worry about this so much. We'll pass by all these traps of Maya. You just have to continue your sadhana. This show off, it means that, well, devotees will probably treat us not on a spiritual level, not such a high level, but it will pass by. Everyone experiences it. Every devotee, when he enters the society of devotees, he feels happy, but then he feels a lot of difficulties in relationships, and not every devotee comes through or goes through. So only the one who follows the principles, chants, mantras, he eventually gets purified. How do you avoid it? It's a wrong question. You have to know that you have to cross this river. You have to be ready for that. Don't be afraid of that. You have sadhana, you have your boat. Just continue acting. So this is the righteous path. Everything will be there. Pride and criticism and offenses and mistakes. You have to be determined. With the help of a devotional service, you will cross the ocean of the material existence. With the help of devotional service, I will cross the ocean of the material existence. I will cross this ocean. I will swim across it with the help of a devotional service. So keep that in mind. Thank you so much. I just wanted to add a little bit. Matter of fact, Karabhajana Prabhu that every day gives Bhagavatam and every time comes to japa, he inspires very much. When you see senior devotees do that, you understand that it's all real. And you want to do it too. So thank you so much. Mataji Olga. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. Thank you so much for such an interesting lecture. So you're saying that everyone that wishes some benediction to all your family members and your descendants, he has to live in accordance with the principles of morality and religion, according to what is said in the scriptures. So my son, he's 40 and he lives really far away from me. When he's a well-mannered person, he's well-educated, he just listens to me, but he does not reply anything. So I don't know how much he hears me. When he visited me, so we were trying to talk to him about something, and then he has read Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how well he read it, but well, he started being a vegetarian. Now he started eating his meat back again. So the question is, who is supposed to be talking to him about the principles of religion and morality? Me or his father? Whom will he listen to better? Whom he will hear? The spiritual teacher should do that, spiritual master. If his father has this position before his son as a spiritual teacher, the son will listen to him. I've seen some Indian families where the father is guru, and initially all his children, they look upon him, they look up to him. They treat him not only as their father, but as their spiritual guru as well, the spiritual master. And they listen to him. They receive instructions. If the father has never demonstrated himself in this role, his child is not going to listen to him. Maybe. So now a person should listen to his spiritual master, not just the father. If he gets some information from Prabhupada or his books, this is already good. Some instructions are already entering him, but if he does not practice sadhana, he will not develop so quickly. If you follow sadhana very quickly, you will be moving fast, but don't expect others will understand you. You have to be really patient. A person having no sadhana, he chants 1 round a day, for example, he will be evolving very, very, very slowly. It will take him many years to realize some things. But still, the process has started already. Since he has studied Bhagavad Gita, the process has started. But when he feels that he needs spiritual master, you may consider his final destination is reached. Thank you so much. I've just found in the previous purport you've said today that in Krishna's consciousness we all have to enjoy in the correct way, to satisfy our senses in the correct way. Since our senses are very powerful, they may be very dangerous. They can take us to places that we can never get out of. And then in his comment, Srila Prabhupada says, to cure your diseased senses, you have to correct this effect, but not to amputate them. If your eyes have some problems, you don't have to take it out, you don't have to prick it out, you have to cure it. It's not a treatment. So the only problem of this material existence is the sensual gratification. You have to occupy your senses with another activity, and this will allow them to see God's beauty, hear about His potency, and dedicate all your activities to Him. So that's how Brahma Ji has created this universe. Yes, you're not supposed to amputate your senses. Do not suppress them and do not follow them, but you have to enjoy them, satisfy them in a right way. So this is probably a very attractive and an amazing aspect of Hare Krishna. Any other questions from YouTube? Yes.
Я буду задавать вопрос и, наверное, повторять его на всякий случай. Дима Прабу, Вселенная до сих пор создается или все организмы уже созданы?
So the universe is still being created, or all the living beings have already been created? It's happening eventually. So first the space is created, this place where everything will take place, the universe, Brahmanda. In this Brahmanda, everything is empty, just an empty space. It's a mysterious space, we should admit. So this space is not actually empty, everything is there, it's just not manifested. Just a space, and then the miracle appears where everything starts forming out of this space, the conditions for life. So Brahma gets the first condition. It's a very beautiful story. So we just have to demonstrate it in an attractive way. So Garbhada Kashaya Vishnu is the handsome Vishnu, beautiful, wonderful Vishnu. He lives on the causal ocean. So the transcendental sweat from his body creates the causal ocean. It's released from the Lord. He lives on Ananta Shesha. It's a snake which making a bed for Vishnu, glowing Vishnu with millions of suns. So he's the source of Brahma. He's not a part of this universe. He supports, but he does not belong to this world. But Brahma is a part of this world. But where does he come from? So he is coming from the belly button of Vishnu. So there's like a plant from the spiritual to the material world. We have this plant. Oh, I think there's no sound. Okay. So this stalk, this stem, it grows from the belly button of Vishnu, connecting spiritual and material worlds, and then it turns out to be a lotus flower, and that's a symbol. And in this lotus, all karma of the universe is present. This is a very beautiful creation, this lotus. And then inside of this lotus, there's Brahma. He is manifested. So that's the first living entity. That's an amazing picture. We just have to demonstrate it in an attractive way. I am describing it in a short way right now, but that's an amazing thing. Imagine this space. Everything's black. No planets, no sun. And then you see out of this black space, when there's nothing at all, suddenly there's some light, and this stem, and all your attention is drawn by this stem, because there's nothing else in there. All your hope is in there, all your faith is in there, all your senses are there. Then out of nothing, this stem, it gives birth to this beautiful, magnificent lotus, where every senses of the universe, all the forms of life, all this future of the universe, to show how this lotus how this lotus looks like. And you start wanting to live, you start enjoying it. And then Brahma is created there, human-like person that does not even understand what this lotus is. He starts looking around, understanding what's happening. So while he's looking around, he has 4 heads. His 4 heads appear. And then Brahma, during performing the austerities and researching this lotus and the stem, so he gets some information from his heart. So thanks to the austerities, he hears the Lord's voice from his heart. And then he sees this true picture. Maya's layer is annihilated before him. And then, so the Lord says, congratulations. They're like in a friendly rasa, like the co-workers. So it's Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, they all cooperate together. They work, they act as one force. Even though they act differently, and sometimes they have some, they don't understand each other's methods of activity. They have different opinions, but their purpose is one, is solid, is triad. It's an interesting topic. And then Brahma creates planets and conditions and different living beings out of his relationships with this universe. And then step by step, this process is really complicated, not simple at all. It's always difficult. So Brahma is engaged in this every day and all his life. Well, just shortly. So thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, all devotees, Hare Krishna. So I've just recalled one example connected with this verse. when there's a kitty cat was sitting on Srila Prabhupada's laps. And Prabhupada said, this cat totally depends on me. We can either kill it or take care of it. And he said that this is the greatest sin when someone depends on you and you do something wrong. You kill it, you do some harm. This is the biggest treachery. So I'll repeat it again, because Chaitanya Chanshan couldn't hear it well. So I can hear really intermittently, just hear some fragments. Our internet, it becomes weaker and weaker. Can you paraphrase your question in a short way, so that I could hear it? So there's the responsibility of Guru and his disciple, and parents and children. And in my case, who do we take care of if we're not responsible for anything? So we've opened up a temple, so I go there and meet some students. I communicate with them. So like I talk to them and I just go back home. I'm not responsible for anyone or anything. And especially in Western countries, democratic countries, where you don't have the right to push anyone. If someone doesn't want to listen to you, for example, so you cannot attract someone to your religion. Yes, I've heard about religion. So I've actually refused it a long time ago. So I've refused this idea to engage some people into my religion, not a Muslim or Christian or Krishna consciousness. You know, all these notions, all these names, I've refused to do it in my preaching. I don't consider myself, from this point of view, neither Krishna consciousness person, a Christian, a Muslim. I just consider, I mean, I believe in God. This is just such a confusion. There's one religion. God is one, and that's it. So you don't have to attract anyone to your religion. You see, we have so much knowledge. You just use your knowledge. Speak based on this knowledge. The lifestyle, the usage, dharma. Everything is in there. The dharma, economy, sensual gratification, everything is in there. It's like four columns that religion stands on. You don't have to attract anyone or pull someone into your religion. You just spread the knowledge and that's it. Let them chant any holy name that they know. What difference does it make? So do not get attached to the thing that people should wear, should be dressed just like Krishna conscious people. Do not impose anything on them. They have a freedom of choice. Was that your question? About responsibilities between a guru and his disciple, parents and children. What are our responsibility?
Какая что?
Ответственность между родителями, детьми, учеником,
Ответственность. Родители, дети,
учитель,
ученик и царь и подчиненный. Да? Какая ответственность между этим?
And between king and his servants.
Материальная
So there are
и
two
духовная ответственность.
responsibilities, material and spiritual.
Перед тем, кто, скажем, нам, обеспечивает работой, да, дают нам работу какую-то.
So the one that gives us job, for example, we have a material responsibility before this person. So we have a spiritual responsibility before our guru. We have some material responsibility before ISKCON as an organization. And there are no material relationships with our guru, of course. You do have some material responsibility before your parents. So two things. What my body depends on, so I have this responsibility too. So the one who pays me money, gives me food, so I have some responsibility, material responsibility. Guru does not pay any money to me, he does not feed me from the material point of view. No, he doesn't. So he's not a material image to me that controls me. He's like a super soul. He acts not materially. So there's only a spiritual responsibility there to only follow your oaths, your vows. That's what he does for you. And if I work for this organization, I have to be materially responsible before it as well. So I live in ISKCON, for example. I use all these resources and I support ISKCON. As the member of this organization, of course, I have this responsibility. Was that your question? Yes, thank you. Vrajamani Prabhu, Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. So probably I just wanted to add something to the previous question. When we talk about responsibility, we have material, spiritual, moral, ethical things that are beyond the devotional service. And suddenly we see, it's not we only see it, but it's like a big field of activity to straighten up this dharma. Sometimes devotees, they renounce this life too early. Should it be controlled by social opinion, for example? Maybe we should talk about it more, or create a separate chat, just to understand how much it is controlled by the class of Bhagavatam, for example, so that it doesn't grow into this talking about dharma into some gossip, and so that devotees understand. So, for example, like a false renouncement. So sometimes young devotees, they say, oh, dharma is not important, you just have to surrender. A person, husband has a quarrel with his wife and he thinks, okay, I think it's time for me to renounce everything. So dharma comes from my false ego and it might become really strange. So it might happen too soon. So we can see that sometimes devotees are not satisfied. This emotional condition dictates them. So probably some instructions on Prabhupada, regulative principles, they don't get them correctly. So it happens premature. So you cannot avoid it. It's unavoidable. So virtually every person goes through this stage until he gets purified enough. So when a person is satisfied with everything he has, we can say that he's got no false ego. I mean, it's still there, but it does not dominate anymore. This person feels satisfied. He can become Brahman already. So you can build dharma based on these people. And until a person becomes Brahman, you cannot build dharma. Really strange things can happen. They all should be controlled. Correct preaching should be there. It should be organized correctly, but it's unavoidable. Rajamani Prabhu.
Можно я тут чуть-чуть доуточню?
Can I please specify it a little bit? So it's a growth to some extent? Or just regulated by some gossips? So we talk about these elements of dharma as being fair. It can be called a growth if a person is in the medium of these gossips. It can be a growth if this person develops his humbleness. He can get out of it. But if he finds the taste in it, he will just stay there. It's all in vain. So for someone, it could be a good experience of the material existence that you have to avoid as a fire. But for someone, this will be essential gratification, essential enjoyment. We just criticize everything and you just go away. So Radha Charan Prabhu, please turn your mic on. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances, Guru Maharaj. Someone had to ask you a question about the holy name. So holy name is the personality, and it's not different from Krishna. So I still can't understand my relation with the holy name as a personality. It's like Sudarshana Chakra, it's like it's someone else. When I hear about it, I just want to clarify this moment. Could you please clarify it for me? Using your mind, it's impossible. You just accept this form. Even if it's not understandable, just like you're saying right now, it's still not clear. So the name is Krishna himself. You just accept it. And then Krishna will open it for you. Not the spiritual master. Spiritual master gives you this name, but Krishna himself will open it for you. This is your relationship with God. You just have to practice accepting this form, accepting this instruction. And I don't know how much time it will take you or someone else. It's not about the chronology here, like the first decade, you will have it this way, just like Guru Maharaj, and then in 1 month you will stop even eating some dry leaves and then you will see God. No, it's not going to happen this way. When you have a necessity to realize Krishna, to get closer to Him, so when you have it, then you will have your time. It's not about the chronology. It's about the spiritual measurement of time. It's different. If you really desire it with your heart, you get it. Duration does not matter. The material nature is measured with the help of duration. It all consists of some parts, some particles. Then any movement happens gradually, but in the spiritual sense, duration does not exist. It's just your sincere desire, and you get this contact right away. So do not wait for anything, just work on your desire. Using your mind, it's impossible to understand. So what is it? What is it like? Where is it? I don't see it. I desire, I wish, I want. I want Krishna, and that's it. Chant his name, serve him. This desire should be developed by associating with devotees that already have Krishna in their hearts.
Гуру Махарадж, можно уточнить? Смотрите, я понимаю, что это форма, имя, это все не отлично от
So understand that this form and name, they're all Krishna himself. I understand these processes, but there's one contradiction. The holy name is a personality. It's like it's something else. So I can understand that this is personality. This is personality, but not Krishna himself. So I have this contradiction. That's the same question. This is your mind. So you have to live with this mind because you don't have another one. So it's just a type. Just accept what I've just told you. Accept it and act. Develop your desire. And Krishna will open this truth for you. Just your head will not open this truth for you. Krishna will give it to you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Can we ask any more questions? Can we have any more questions? Yes, we'll try. Mataji Katrin. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. Almost all spiritual practice is all around accepting the spiritual master. So in what state of consciousness should we approach the spiritual master? Because basically there's an opinion when your teacher comes and all your problems will be solved, you will just fly, you will get elevated, and everything's going to be fine. Some people approach spiritual master for 30 years, for some it takes 2 years. So how relentlessly should we be to do that? To approach a spiritual teacher already pure enough, or roughly saying that's the teacher's karma to wash us. So when I didn't go to school, so when I was just in school, so after school I didn't go straight home. We were just hanging out with my friends. In summer was all like in sand or some dirt, but in winter was all in snow. So when I came home like this, I knocked at the door. Just imagine what I was looking like. All in snow, my mother would open the door, and I just wanted to enter the apartment. She said, no, go away. So she was holding me like this, with her hand extended. So I was trying to make my way in. She wasn't like, oh, my dear son, come in. No, she was like, stay there. So she took like this, she would just sweep me off. So she would take a broom and clean me with it. So that's what's happening. But I liked it. My mom, she knew what to do. I didn't have any problems with that. So I just trusted her. You know, my pants, there was like a crust of a frozen snow and ice on it. She's like, no, stay there. And I liked it actually, you know. And then when everything is fine, when you're ready, let's have dinner. And she was stroking my head. A good boy. She was just beating me with this broom. Then she gave me this dinner. She told me a fairy tale and put me to sleep. So Radha Krishna Mataji. So we still have a lot of questions from YouTube. Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. Chaitan Chancharam Prabhu, thank you so much for opening this text, 2.9.40. When I yesterday read it, I didn't understand anything, but I've been really touched today by the fact that one of the scholars, material scholars, said that in the Holy Scriptures it says nothing about human rights. Yes, when I've read it for the first time, I've seen it in Bhagavad Gita 2.40.7. You can perform your prescribed duties, but you have no right to enjoy the fruits of your activity. Yeah, this is the first time I saw it in the Russian translation, the word right. And today when we were discussing it, I've started thinking about it again. Do we really have any rights? And it's really interesting. From the position of a materialist, my right means that I want to enjoy. Right means enjoyment. And materialists also think that if you have some rights, you have to protect your rights. And then other people should realize my rights. And you have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but you're not supposed to be attached to the fruits of your activity. And all this discussion, this Prabhupada's phrase, it says in Bhagavad Gita that we all have our rights, but not from the position of a materialist. But if we take a look at this word right, it means to give. If we think of this word right, if it means the performance of our duties, that's when I understand what it is. So I understand now why Krishna started explaining to Brahma. He didn't just say, so these are your things. He's actually opened the signs of Sangha for him. What the spiritual world consists of. Am I getting it correctly? That in the first stage, in the very beginning, we probably act unconsciously. Yeah, I also remember this episode of my life when I was a little girl and I would just come back home covered in snow. So we just trust our parents, we do it unconsciously. But when we understand the signs, we start having this consciousness. So that's a discovery for me. That's what we need, a spiritual master that takes us out of this material position to a spiritual level. So that's why we always should start out with the question of, like, I'm silly, I understand nothing. And it's a total discovery for me. Always before doing something, you have to hear an advice. And the Lord, He has given this knowledge to Brahma before he had started acting, creating these universes. So if you don't give an education, then there will be no consciousness. Or again, as Arjuna asks, should we go parallelly, having the spiritual practice, spiritual education, and only the spiritual master takes us there. So we have the right for adharma, no other rights. You see, there's no necessity. It's not necessary at all. It's not like you've been suppressed. So if this is dharma, everything else isn't there. There's no need for us to talk about something else, to talk about some other rights, some responsibilities, some duties. But if I perform my dharma incorrectly, then dharma does not give me this protection. So this incorrect dharma does not give me this protection. Then I start require protection. I require the raise in my salary, and I demand my rights, fulfillment. That means that I perform my dharma in an incorrect way. But it's not necessary. That's why you need an education and a spiritual master to understand what my dharma is and how to perform my dharma in a correct way. Thank you so much. So now it's all clarified for me. Thank you so much. I often demonstrate an example between a husband and a wife. When a husband comes back home in the evening after his work, he's got a right to receive a dinner, and this right has appeared before him to eat prasadam because someone has fulfilled his dharma. So that's why dharma is initial, is original. Damodara Priya? Damodara Priya, please, very shortly. It's a very short idea. So I've been stricken with this idea, with this thought. So women, since they have very masculine qualities these days, they probably do not follow their dharma so much these days to inspire their men. So they're more active these days, more active than men even, and they're not protected. So they require protection, and that's why we have feminism these days, because their dharma is not fulfilled. That's just, my thought. Thank you. That's because men, they stopped performing their dharma. Karbajan, everything was fine. The women were to blame. Were to be blamed. I just felt that everything is fine.
Так, пожалуйста, Примананда Прабhu. Очень много вопросов с YouTube, ты там
Примананда Прабhu.
как бы селекцию проведи, самые лучшие, потому что мы не сможем на все ответить.
Хорошо.
Может быть, 2-3 вопроса.
Евгений Прабhu. Если соблюдать строго 4 регулирующие принципы,
if you follow 4 regulative principles,
качества уже автоматически разовьются в человеке.
And all the rest of the good qualities, they will develop automatically in you.
Милосердие, правдивость и чистота — всю добродетель в человеке.
Mercy and being truth and all these qualities. No. Monkey also regulates. Like an old monkey follows all these regulative principles as well. So it does not have an illicit sex, celibacy. It's a vegetarian, does not play any, does not do any gambling, right? And does not drink any alcohol. Sadhu, you see, there's nothing special in these regulative principles. But dharma, how do I say, this is just a medium in which dharma should grow up. There's got to be a semen in these regulative principles. If there's no seed of dharma in there, it's just an old monkey. A pigeon is also a vegetarian. These examples were given by Prabhupada. Regulative principles are not enough. Dharma should be there. That's the name of God. God should be there. That's when it becomes a good thing. Good things, they just disappear without God. They get spoiled. Every good thing will get spoiled in the material world. For example, because it's a material medium. Today it's good, but tomorrow gets spoiled. Mango is good today, but then it gets spoiled. Rose is good until it's fresh. Then it fades. Without harm, without supportive force. This is just a temporary thing. Then finally just gets spoiled. Next question. Матаджа Наламахини.
А в чем еще проявляется, что гаудия вайшнавизм относится к Брахма Сампрадае?
So Gaudiya Vaishnavism, why is it this Sampradaya exactly? How is it manifested?
Да, почему гаудия вайшнавизм относится к Брахма
Why
Сампрадае?
is Gaudiya Vaishnavism in Brahma Sampradaya? Because the Lord Chaitanya has come into this line of Madhavacharya. The Lord Chaitanya has come. So that's why? Because Param Guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhavinda Pujri, he was in line in the Madhava Sampradaya. Hence Ishvara Puri was his disciple. So he's chosen this Sampradaya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It has its development in the future. All these Sampradayas, they will unite. So don't worry about that.
Следующий вопрос. Дайя Прабhu.
Daya
Что
Maya
делать,
Prabhu.
если не хватает сострадания?
What am I supposed to do if I lack compassion?
Чего не хватает?
Сострадание.
Сострадание.
Ну, просто ведите себя так, как будто оно есть.
So you just behave like you have it.
Гуна карма называется, да?
It's called Guna Karma.
Практики мы можем обрести.
With the help of this practice, you can get this compassion.
Я себя не называю добрым человеком, но я пытаюсь.
Well, I don't call myself to be a kind person, but I try to act as one, and it helps me.
Я такой же эгоист, у меня есть материальное тело.
I am the same egoist and I have this material body and it has its
Я знаю, у меня есть знания, мне гуру дал знания.
necessities, but I have this knowledge, my Guru has given it to me, and I act as if I'm a good person, I'm a kind person. I follow these instructions and I'm trying to do good things, and eventually it becomes our habit and then nature comes back to us as a kind nature.
Александр Прабhu.
Alexander
Что нужно
Prabhu.
делать, чтобы понять, что мне нужен духовный учитель?
What I have to do in order to understand that I need a spiritual master?
Что нужно делать, чтобы понять, что мне нужен духовный учитель?
Чтобы понять, ну,
So if you want to understand it, you have to read books,
такие серьезные книги.
Bhagavad Gita, serious books, Srimad Bhagavatam,
Книги Прабхупады возьмите, почитайте.
Prabhupada's books, read them.
Что вам нужно какие-то
You will
пояснения,
feel that you need some
захотите общаться, интерес пробуждается.
understanding, discussion. You will feel a necessity to
Вот так вы приходите.
need to associate with someone else, with devotees. That's how it will take you to your guru.
Последний вопрос.
Last question.
Матаджа Анастасия.
Матаджа
Подскажите, почему
Анастасия.
человек плачет, когда слышит песни Хари Кришны?
Why does a person cry when he or she hears Hare Krishna songs? Just like one sannyasi said,
Ну и также, я думаю, это какой-то
get born in this country and you'll be crying as well. I think this is about purification in your heart. Sometimes it happens to me too. It can happen to anyone that chants Hare Krishna, repeats Hare Krishna. Prabhupada, he would shed his tears as well. Sometimes it would happen to him. If you're in Krishna's consciousness, there are a lot of deep senses there. Things that you don't even anticipate. You just chant mantra and then you go outside and then out of a sudden your heart starts melting. You think like, wow, life is so beautiful, so wonderful. And you start crying. You start crying. You've lived there for so many years. You get bored of all these things, but when you have a contact with the holy name, you get enlivened. You start feeling this universe in a different way. And then when you receive some kindness from your guru especially, you may start crying as well. You think like, oh gosh, I don't deserve anything. Such a mercy. So there was a very touching story. In the old times, when Nirajana Swami would visit us, so he was behaving like a senior friend. He would bring some presents for us. So he came with the Walkman. It didn't even exist in the Soviet Union back then, all these electronic devices. He also would bring us some tape to tape our fingers to play on the drum, and some razors to take shave from America, and he would just give it to us. So he came with this Walkman, and everyone was looking not at the razors but at this Walkman. So everyone was expecting that my Maharaj would give this Walkman to someone. So there was one Mataji, she was older than me, she was a devotee of course. So she got sick, she got cancer, so she was getting ready to die, and she was in a deep stress all this time. But the devotees, they were very strict, rough, harsh and fanatic. They were saying like, why are you so attached to your body? It's just your body, your internal soul, haven't you read that? You're an initiated devotee, just die in peace. So that's what kind of medium we had. This was the first case when someone died. And everyone was taking it philosophically, and of course she was trying to do it as well. But she was in a deep stress. So she came there to Namahata when Nirajana Swami was back then. So she raised her hand and said, Maharaj, I need your darshan, can I please have a darshan? And everyone just looked at her like in a negative way. So there was such an understanding back then, very fanatic. I wasn't initiated back then because she was older. I was just observing, trying to understand what Nirajana Swami would say. So she came there, she went there with Nirajana Swami. It took them about 15 minutes probably. There was like an apartment, there was like a corner, a little corner in the apartment. She went there with the translator. Nirajana Swami was listening to her. And then she comes out there. And everyone wants to know what Nirajana Swami had said. So everyone thought that maybe they were doing something else. She was crying, she was all wet. And she was smiling so broadly. So she was holding a Walkman in her hands. She said, such a mercy, such a mercy. So she was said to listen to Prabhupada all the time, and that Prabhupada would take her to his world. So she was all crying with this Walkman in her hands, and then she was taken to Vrindavan, and then she left her body there. You see, these things, they cause crying as well. It's a normal thing. So I think we'll end on tears today. This is also a spiritual thing. So thank you, I have to go now.
Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.40 Его милость Чайтанья Чанда Чарам Прабху ки джай, Нитай Гаур Примананде Хари Хари. Чайтанья Чанда Чарам Прабху рассказал историю замечательную.
So Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu has told us a great story today in the very end about this disease, cancer that this Mataji had, and she was pacified with this great present from Nirajana Swami. And when I was listening to it, I've recalled another case. So this Prabhu, he would periodically read some Bhagavatam, he would give some Bhagavatam classes. His love, his totally mesmerizing love, the ecstasy of his love. He was a unique person, treating us as his seniors. So he was glowing with warmth and unconditional acceptance. So we've recently heard as a thunder. So he was diagnosed with cancer as well, 4th degree. This is very serious. When he invited him the last time to our festival, and we don't know if he can attend. So before this, he said that he wasn't feeling well. So he needed to postpone it. He said that maybe I'll do it later when I feel better. So now he's been diagnosed with it. I wanted to say that since today we were discussing the care for the juniors, duty, performing your duty, how important it is to associate with the seniors, to accept their support, because without the seniors, without the spiritual mentors, it is very hard for us to get on our feet firmly, because we all depend on the mercy. So that's why we have to try to strive, whatever it takes, to associate with the seniors, to serve to the seniors. This is one of the important aspects in devotional service, associating and serving to the seniors. So we had this topic today, right? How seniors take care of the juniors. Taking care of the juniors means when we strictly adhere to dharma, we protect it and dharma protects us. By following dharma, we demonstrate a very precious example. By following dharma, we have this power to take care of the juniors emotionally and spiritually. And in order to follow dharma, we have to associate with each other as well. So tomorrow's topic, starting from tomorrow, we'll be talking about the associating with devotees, about how to get this energy to associate with devotees, on every stage, on every level, on every component of every society. There's always a junior and a senior. There's always got to be some association, some communication when we get some support. And by following dharma, we get some energy. So please pray for Anjanandana Prabhu. We've just compiled a letter from my editing office from Middle Asia. We're going to send it out where we express our thirst to associate with him and to hear Krishna Katha from him. So Hare Krishna to everybody. May you all have a wonderful day.